Ramadan begins in Gaza with famine spreading and the death toll nearing 45,000. I'm raising funds for orphans, children with amputated limbs, children that are starving, to supply water, food, medical supplies, just basic necessities for our brothers and sisters in Gaza. The fundraiser is zakat eligible, and every donation, no matter how small or how big, will be greatly appreciated. I partnered with HCI Canada, which are a Muslim charity, and I chose to partner with them because they're endorsed by some of the biggest activists for Palestine, like Sean King and Mu'taz Azaza, and I've actually worked with them a couple of times before, and I continue to work with them as my favourite charity because they're very transparent in their work. They keep me up to date with videos and pictures, and I completely trust these people with all my heart. They are one of the leading charities on the ground in Gaza, so please, if you have the means to donate, the link is in the description of this video, in the comments of this video. Don't miss out on this chance to get good deeds onto the video.
It's like looking into a river and trying to grab a fish with your hands. And you can't quite grab the fish. So you just kind of lean over a little bit further until the water is up to here, and then the water's up to here, and the water's up to here, until you're so far fully submerged. The deeper they dive into it, they see that the uglier it becomes. And the more evil is waiting in the depths, lurking. And by that point, they don't have the strength to pull themselves up and get back on shore where it's dry and peaceful. So as they sink deeper and deeper into this pit of empty promises, that discovery of the reality of Hollywood makes them even more depressed and even more, searching for self-worth. And they put themselves in positions that they would never, ever do willingly before the dream started. And so there's just so much evil in Hollywood that people don't see. They just see the end result, but they don't see what a lot of people have to do to get there. And I think that the people that do these things live with that guilt and that sickness. And I think that's what drives them to commit suicide, because they can't take it.
Okay, so my first question for both of us is, what did you think you would find in LA?
Oh man, that's an excellent question. I thought that I would find something interesting, more exciting. I'm from a place in the Midwest where I shouldn't say everyone, I don't want to make blanket statements, but a lot of people where I'm from are very content doing the same things they've always done, frequenting the same places they've always gone to, and not really traveling or exploring. And for me, I felt like I outgrew my city. And no disrespect to anyone that's from there. It's just, I kind of felt like I exhausted everything that was there for me to explore. And I was just looking for something that was a little bit more fresh. And I guess, even in terms of like fashion, I was always looking to LA for just what's really trending. And then people would tease me a little bit and be like, oh, why are you wearing that? Ha ha ha. And then a year later they would be wearing it because that's how long it would take to like catch on here. And I always felt that I was chasing like just interesting things and like different forms of fashion, different forms of art, different everything really. And so I went out there thinking that I would kind of like go from a pond to an ocean. So for me, it was just like, I was looking for more variety, I guess. And I definitely found that. But what about you? What was your situation?
Yeah, I definitely get that. I think for me it's very similar. It was like La La Land, the land of dreams. So I always wanted to be an actress, and I started acting when I was around 14. So my dream was always to go to LA. And the big the Hollywood sign, and I remember showing up in LA for the first time and like seeing the Hollywood sign and kind of feeling like I made it. And I lived like the proper LA life, which most people were gonna think is like bougie restaurants every day and like sunbathing on the beach. That's kind of like, for most people in LA, that's not what it's like. For most people in LA, it's like sleeping in your car.
Yes. Definitely.
Like everyone I knew in LA had like a really bad housing situation. Like they were ever sleeping in their car, or like 10 people sleeping in one room. And they were also spending their money on like going to, I forgot the name of the place. There's like all these like bougie restaurants in LA that like everyone goes to, and even if you're like broke, you still go and hang out there just because like that's what everyone does. I'm trying to remember, there's one on the one in West Hollywood, and it's like disguised as a hardware store. It's like on the outside it's a hardware store. Once you go in, it's like a really expensive restaurant.
I befriended someone named Lisa Beachley, who she's just an indescribable goofball character, and she was like the Hollywood it girl, and she used to run the whole scene before I even got there, with like clubs, getting people in, like getting you on the list and everything like that. And so she had connections all over town, and we would just end up in crazy places and houses in the Hollywood Hills and trips to Palm Springs and San Diego and all over LA. And she would kind of just, together we would stumble upon so many different things. And she asked me, she was like, listen, I am going to be doing this night on Fridays at the Thompson Hotel in Beverly Hills. Like, I want you to help me out. And like, do you want to like work with me? And I was like, no, not really. Like the idea of like being in charge of like who can come in and who can't, like I'd rather be inside. I don't know. And she's like, no, you'll be inside, but you'll be kind of like controlling the crowd and like deciding who gets in and who doesn't. And I was like, I mean, okay, I'll do it one Friday, but it's not going to be a regular thing. Well, it was definitely a regular thing. And we just would end up with like celebrities that would come in there because it was very low key. And sometimes we would just like, I don't know, end up in conversations with them. Like Ron Artest used to come in there, aka Meta World Peace. He's like an NBA player. And like one time I had to kick Mina Suvari out. She's an actress. And I was like, oh, I'm really sorry, but this table's reserved. And she was kind of like, oh, like didn't want to say, don't you know who I am? And I was like, yeah, I really don't care because it's reserved and it's not under your name. Sorry. You know, and like things like that. I mean, I don't know. I ended up working in the art department on some things and ended up getting this blanket that was this like big brown fur blanket that Pharrell used to have. And I'm like, I'm sleeping under a blanket from Pharrell. Like, what? Like, it was just crazy things like that. And I painted some bowling shoes for Gene Simmons and worked with some amazing like photographers and directors, like been on set with like Christina Aguilera and Snoop Dogg and Nicki Minaj and just like all these big name people. And I did some work with Hype Williams, and it would be interesting to be in his office because you'd just be sitting there and like all these people would walk in and you're just like, oh, hey, hi, seen you in like every music video, you know?
You get over it really quickly. Like at first it's kind of cool. I mean, now like I'm very different obviously, but at the time, at first it was kind of cool, but then after a while it's just not really, you just don't really care that much anymore because you realize that they're just very normal. They're not kind of extraordinary the way you think they are. And I think people always say like, don't meet your heroes because they're going to let you down. And it's true because they're really not these great people that you think they are. They're really not. They're really, really not. And yeah, so for me, like I had the same experience. I met like a lot of people as well. And a lot of people in LA would always be like hanging out with celebrities all the time. Like it's just kind of what you do when you're in LA. I think for me, like the meaning of life was a bit different to yours because I was very obsessed with becoming rich and famous. And I think that was always my obsession. And I think that I've mentioned this before. I think that's built in the fact that my dad left when I was quite young in a way that very much felt like I had to be extraordinary in order to get his attention. So it was my dream to kind of like show up on his TV one day to kind of be like, hey, look, here's the kid that you left behind. I'm so amazing and extraordinary. You're going to regret leaving me kind of thing. So this was like kind of like a driving force for me. So for me, it was like really just to be at the top of the rat race. I guess so. I guess that's a lot of it. And I just thought that I thought that once I was pretty, successful, rich, famous, that all my problems would go away, because that's kind of what the modern capitalistic world teaches you, that you're just kind of one step away from, just one product away or whatever it is, from like being the best version of yourself, instead of looking inwards and doing things like contemplating, and the things that actually help us. The capitalistic giants can't make money from them, so they don't promote them. The things like just learning how to be in nature, or be at one with yourself, or how to think positive thoughts, or anything Islamic. People don't make money off that, so they don't promote it. They promote things that are very different to that. And I was very much in that life. I genuinely, wholeheartedly believed that I was going to be happy one day, because I'm on a journey towards richness and celebritydom, stardom.
And they sell you the dream. They sell it to you, and it's beautifully packaged in palm trees and sunshine and the promise of the riches, the fame, and all of that. And like you said, it's like that dangling carrot. You're almost able to reach it, but never fully. And that's what keeps you going, because you're always, if I'll only do this, I'll be happy. And then only if I can do this. And it's like, I just need one more of this, and I need to do this. And then it's like, it's just this constant chase when everything you need is already within. And I know that sounds corny, but it's true. And like you said, I think that's why they don't promote the self-reflection and things like that, and just that inner peace and solitude. It's pushing the narrative of, oh, everybody has anxiety, everybody's depressed, everybody has this. It's like, no, they don't. They just need to stop and slow down, but you can't make money off of that, like you said.
Definitely. So I think that poses the question of, why are these so-called people at the top of the world, the happiest, the richest, the prettiest people, why are they killing themselves?
It's true. Because they're not happy. And then it's like the deeper they get into it, because it's like looking into a river and trying to grab a fish with your hands. And you can't quite grab the fish. So you just kind of lean over a little bit further until the water is up to here, and then the water's up to here, and the water's up to here, until you're so far fully submerged. The deeper they dive into it, they see that the uglier it becomes, and the more evil is waiting in the depths, lurking. And by that point, they don't have the strength to pull themselves up and get back on shore where it's dry and peaceful. So as they sink deeper and deeper into this pit of empty promises, that discovery of the reality of Hollywood makes them even more depressed and even more, searching for self-worth. And they put themselves in positions that they would never, ever do willingly before the dream started. And so, there's just so much evil in Hollywood that people don't see. They just see the end result, but they don't see what a lot of people have to do to get there. And I think that the people that do these things live with that guilt and that sickness. And I think that's what drives them to commit suicide, because they can't take it.
Wow. I got a bit emotional hearing that, because that is so true. I think we are given this narrative that if you're not willing to do things that are hard, and when I say hard, I mean against your morals, not hard work, I'm saying things that are against your morals, then you're not ever going to get to the top. Because there's always going to be somebody who's willing to stand on someone else, do something really dodgy. There's so many things that you have to do in order to get to the top. You just end up destroying yourself by the time you've got there. And it's kind of part of the package. Oh my God, that's so true. And I mean, that's one of the main reasons. I think another reason would probably be, what we're saying, which is the fact that you're promised happiness, and then one day you realize that it's not going to come. And once you lose hope, I think that's when the suicidal thoughts come.
Or that's when they trap you and trick you and hook you the hardest, because they see you're at a vulnerable point. And, it's like they say, you're instantly replaceable. Okay, replace me then. I have a friend that I actually met in church here in Kenosha. And his he started off in church singing, self-taught, absolutely amazing with the piano, the guitar, the vocals. And he got a record label deal. His name is Kevin Hammond, and he just sings very well. There's a particular song he would sing, it's called Broken Down. And somebody heard him, and they flew him out to LA and offered him a record deal. And he was like, oh my goodness. And in my opinion, this was like around the time when like Gavin DeGraw was really popular, and like his vocals are way better in my opinion. And he really has the talent to be commercially successful. And so he signs this record deal, and on his website, he had a little like about me section or whatever, talking about how, first and foremost, I'd like to thank God, and, I wouldn't be here. And, he was a Christian artist, so all of his work is centered around God and everything else. And the record label basically told him, you need to take that down. And he said, no, that's the entire core of my work, and that's what my entire life is based on. I'm not taking it down. And they said, do you know how many people would kill to be in your position right now? And he told them, well, tell them the position's open, because if you're not going to allow me to express my faith, then I don't want to be a part of this label. And this was like just in like the beginning, like momentum stages, where they were like doing like professional video shoots and like photo shoots with him and like ready to fully promote him. And he walked away from all of it when he was just about to hit like huge commercial success, because he said, I don't care. And they said, well, like he got an advance. And they were like, well, then you're going to have to pay us your advance back. And he was like, okay, I'll pay it when I have it. And like he walked away from it. And you got to respect that, because that's how it is. They don't want you to have any connection to God. They want you to be removed as far from that as possible, remove all your faith. And he chose to turn down the fame and the money and everything else. And he said, no, my faith is way more important to me than any record deal. I was like, what? And then he could have struck it rich and been famous and done this and that, but he said, it's not worth it to me. And that's not something that you see often there. Usually it's the other way around. So, it's those that have the strong faith that are able to stand up for themselves and say, no, I don't want this,
You know what? You become a slave. I think like the more powerful, and I'm saying in quotation marks because we see these people at the top as powerful, the more under control they are. I mean, look at the sheer amount of celebrities that are not speaking out about Palestine. Now, like, I wouldn't be able to sleep at night if I wasn't able to speak out on such a horrible genocide, especially against children. And even Palestinian artists, obviously not naming names, are not able to speak out against it. And you just literally, and I think that's proof of how much of a slave you become. And yeah, there's contracts, there's you know what, actually I realized this as well, and it's not just celebrities that are stuck, it's just rich people in general. And you know what it is? It's because once you work your way up to a certain amount of wealth, you end up raising your baseline constantly until you meet that. So say you're a millionaire, you're now only happy once you're a millionaire and above. You're not going to be happy once you go below, because life is not meeting your expectations anymore, and that's how life works, and that's how happiness works. So in order to be happy, you're going to have to maintain that or go higher, and that's a lot of hard work. And I think if you need so much in your life just to be happy, the more of a slave you become, because the more you're willing to go against your morals, the more you're willing to hurt people just to have a baseline of happiness, not even to exceed your baseline of happiness. Whereas we see people who have a low baseline of happiness, people that are living in poverty, etc., they don't have that. They're not slaves to their wealth or society or the powers, because they're slaves to God only. They don't have to do extraordinary, ridiculous things just to be happy. They can just do normal things and be happy. And I think that's where true freedom comes.
I mean, I don't know. I feel like the situation is totally true what you're saying. Like you keep raising the bar higher and higher and higher. And then, it's not even about happiness sometimes. It's about the image that they're projecting. the projected happiness, you know? It's not about like, are they really happy on this yacht? Are they really having a good time when they're suffering so much internally and emotionally? Or are they just worried about getting that video so they can post it on their story and be like, woohoo, we love it here, everything's a party. It's like, you're not even happy and you're just being fake happy. And you're doing all this to be fake happy. Like, when is your real happiness? And it's like, they don't even know the definition of real happiness because they can't even trust their own friends or family or their record label or their manager or whomever. And like you said, like they're just treated in such a way that they'll do anything to maintain this, whether it's genuine happiness or, you know, social media happiness.
But now we're both Muslim. We both have very unique journeys, and we're both twins, and we're and how blessed are we that we can sit and make this video and reflect on those times instead of living in those times.
Yeah. And say so many times in sujood, I've said, Allah, thank you for saving me from myself, from my own situations, from my life, from...
Alhamdulillah, Allahu Akbar. Yeah. Well, thank you guys for watching. Please donate to my Gaza fundraiser. Links in the description and the comments. Assalamu alaikum.